Hi guys, this is gsn.com and I'm here with a review of the Xiaomi Mi A2 Lite. Yes, I know it's been a while, but better later than never, right? Okay, so we've already reviewed the Xiaomi Mi A2. Now it's time for the Lite version to check it out. So it's got a notch, a small one at the top. It's got a metal body, which is something you don't see often nowadays. It's also a lighter version of the Mi A2, keeps the dual camera. It's got Android One, which means a pretty clean and clear software, and a pretty beefy battery, which is a 4000 mAh unit. Okay, so the price tag is around $150, maybe less nowadays. It's been quite a few months since its debut. People are already speculating about a follow-up. It's got the Xiaomi Mi A1 processor inside, Snapdragon 625, and people also know it as the Xiaomi Redmi 6 Pro in the version that has the other software, the one that's not Android One. Okay, so first things first, design. I would call it antiquated, I would call it old school. What's for sure is that we're dealing here with a handset with a metal unibody approach. You can see it right here, built of metal, and it also has a lid at the bottom and at the top for the sake of connectivity. It looks like something out of another age. Nowadays it's all glass and a bit of metal into the frame. Anyways, not the prettiest phone in the world. The camera doesn't help it either. It creates a weird contrast with the grayish black area of the backside. It may draw a fingerprint or two, but nothing serious. At least the grip is okay in my book, so solid grip all around, and you can easily use it with a single hand without experiencing problems. The notch feels kind of useless. It feels a bit forced if you ask me. Okay, now other than that, I would have to say that the design is something out of the past, but once again, as long as you can grip it properly and as long as you can use it with a single hand, I don't see any problem. And also the buttons have a pretty okay feedback. Now on the screen front, this one is a typical diagonal size for the mid-range section, 5.84 inches, IPS LCD, resolution of 2280 over 1080 pixels. I think that they could have put HD here, so it's a nice thing that we actually get full HD, 2280 over 1080 pixels. This also has the 19:9 aspect, the notch, and a 2.5D glass panel at the front. Well, maybe not as curved as some of the other panels out there. Now the actual viewing experience will be put to the test right about now, and here we go. We got our typical test video here, starting over, and as you can see, you will not feel the entirety of the screen. Those two areas flanking the notch will remain blank, and you can also see that they're rather gray. They're not all black, dark black, and you'll notice that in darker areas which are more lit than they should. Anyways, pretty bright screen. The black is too white. Colors are decently calibrated, if not a bit too white themselves. We got wide view angles and a pretty decent contrast in the sunlight that I caught on camera. You'll see that later. Okay, we go further now, and let's have a look at the tests we did. We put the screen under the microscope, and then we saw the pixel arrangement, which is RGB stripes in this version of the phone. So RGB stripes pixel arrangement, typical for an IPS LCD. Then we measure the brightness, achieving a top level of 441 lux units. It's solid, beats the Motorola One, Nokia 7 Plus, HTC U11, scores below the Xiaomi Mi A1 and its 472 lux units, also Nokia 6 and Xperia XA2. Now the settings for the screen are rather typical. There we got your brightness, night light, adaptive brightness, font size, display size, and that's about it. Of course, there's also ambient display, just in case you were wondering. Now, if you want to discuss other hardware, what we're getting here is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 625 CPU, which we also saw on a bunch of other phones like the Xiaomi Mi A1, 4GB of RAM, 64GB of storage, microSD card slot, and generally speaking, there was no lag per se, but every once in a while, when you had too many apps open and do too intensive tasks, you may experience some hint of lag. Anyways, good news, you can run Riptide GP Renegade, you can run Asphalt 9, and with a bit of effort, you can run PUBG if you can sacrifice a bit of clarity. And perhaps you may experience some lag when you're doing combats with a lot of players which need to be spawned on the screen at the same time. Now, we're showing you this game, and as you just saw, some parts of it are actually filling the areas flanking the notch, some are not. The notch is a bit bothersome because it's useless basically. Okay, so this game runs at a nice frame rate. I don't see any frame drops, it looks fine to me. So it checks out gaming wise, at least for a price of around $150. We also did benchmarks, and let's check those out. And keep in mind, this is a phone that was launched in summer 2018, so we're going to cut it some slack. Okay, so this is Antutu 6. In Antutu 6, we were able to score past Huawei P9 Lite and AllView Sol X5, but we scored below the Huawei P10 Lite and below the Huawei Mate 10 Lite. Next up, it's Antutu 7, more current, more recent. It beats the Motorola Moto G6, it beats the Nokia 6, stays below the Motorola One and below the Cat S61. We didn't forget about Geekbench 4, and here we go. We take into account the Geekbench 4 multi-core subtest. We beat the Motorola One, Nokia 6.1 and Xperia XA2, at the same time stayed below the Xiaomi Mi A2 and the Meizu Pro 6 Plus. And last but never least, the gaming experience. We like to measure it with the 3D Mark benchmark, and I'm having a hard time finding it. I know it has a yellow background, should be here somewhere. Okay, here we go. So Slingshot, Slingshot showed us this thing that we beat the Motorola Moto G6 and the AllView Sol X5, but we couldn't surpass the Nokia 5.1 Plus and the Xperia XA2. Overall, the results are, I would say, mid-level, mid-range, or even low mid-range. I would say we can fight something like the, let's say, Huawei P9 Lite or something like that, and the AllView Sol X5 were gravitating in those areas of performance. So Huawei P9 Lite, maybe some Motorola One comparisons can be drawn, and some AllView Sol X5. When it comes to the temperature, let's see how we did. So we go here and we go here. As you can see, an impressive 30.4 degrees Celsius achieved when running GFX Bench, and then we have 35.5 degrees Celsius when running Riptide, the game you saw before, so basically no trace of overheating. We also have a heat map, which is generated using the FLIR thermal camera of the Cat S61 phone. And it gets a bit hot, as you can see, but it dissipates the heat, and it's only hot around the fingerprint scanner area. Dissipation is quite fine. Now let's go to other areas like the battery. So I would say that we're doing fine at first sight with a 4000 mAh battery, but let's see just how fine we're doing. As usual, we take the device for a spin in a continuous HD video playback test that yielded 11 hours and 55 minutes of playback, which in my book is pretty solid. Now with this result, we surpassed the iPhone X, HTC U11 and Motorola One. We stayed below the Galaxy A6 2018 and Nokia 5.1 Plus, which we tested recently. And at the same time, a very impressive result when it comes to continuous battery usage in PC Mark. Once again, 11 hours, 55 minutes, solid. Beats Galaxy A9 2018, which was a bit of a battery phone. Beats Xiaomi Mi 6, AllView P8 Energy Pro, and quite a few battery phones. Not bad, but still not on par with the Cat S61 and Motorola Moto Z Play. Charging is a bit on the long side with 2 hours 22 minutes. It's the equal of the Xperia XZ2, and after 1 hour of charging you're at 54%. And if you want special charging options, you got the typical in stock battery saver, adaptive brightness and battery optimization. All in all, a pretty solid experience. And now we move on to the acoustics. You can see two grills at the bottom, but only this one is the actual speaker. This is for the sake of symmetry, and we will not cover it in landscape. Luckily it remains exposed. We are using Play Music to play music with a stock equalizer. Stock-ish. It's Snapdragon Audio Plus, 5 channels, genre settings, bass boost, surround sound, and the experience goes something like this. Okay, so my impressions about the playback experience. I would have to say that the sound is loud and clear. The bass is, I would say, so-so. I've heard better, but still pretty okay. The back vibrates a lot. Voices were well heard in the movies, and all the notes are perfectly represented here. Too bad there is no stereo, but honestly I didn't expect it. We don't have FM radio that I know of, and we also don't have bundled headphones. What we do have is a special decibel meter tool, which we use to separate the grain from the wheat, or whatever the saying is. So we achieved 79.8 decibels here in the initial test with an acoustic sample, which is pretty poor. We've seen many phones going past 85, so it beats Motorola Moto G5, Motorola Moto Z, Amazon Fire Phone. It stays below the Huawei P9 Lite, Huawei Mate 10 Lite, Cat S61, and many other phones. Now the other test was a bit better in the game Riptide GP Renegade, 98.8 decibels, and this surpassed the Xperia XA1, the iPhone 8, and the OnePlus 6, which is no small feat, but stays below the Xperia XA2 and the Pocophone F1. And for extra tweaks, you got the settings area with the Mi sound enhancer and earphone types, which I'm actually going to show you. Sound and headphones and audio effects. You have headphone types and Mi sound enhancer. Okay, so time to talk about the camera. Things are pretty straightforward and simple. There's a combo at the back. This is a combo of 12 and 5 megapixel shooters with AI, face detection, autofocus. There's f2.2 aperture and also an LED flash and a portrait option. Did I mention AI? AI is also part of the package. Now at the front, believe it or not, come on. At the front, believe it or not, it's only a 5 megapixel camera, even though I was expecting something like an 8 megapixel camera. Anyways, that's it, 5 megapixels. We also have f2.0 aperture, 67.9 degrees wide angle, beautification, AI, and bokeh. Now I want to check out the selfie thing here just to make sure. Okay, so we're going here, we're going to the settings. Here we go, camera sounds, show grill lines, focus and all that, picture quality high, saturation, contrast, sharpness. These are some of the options that you're going to get on this handset. Speaking of options, you got portrait, you got video, you got short video. What else? You also have a panorama mode, you also have a manual mode with tweaks for ISO, white balance, and a few more. So anyways, that's the experience. Not the fastest camera in the world, but at least it doesn't have the shutter lag of the Nokia 5.1 Plus. Now on the gallery front, I won't insist too much. It's still a phone from the summer of 2018, not the freshest in the bunch. So let's go to a straight and fast rundown of the things we're getting here. Okay, so first things first, photos during the day. I would have to say that the shots had pretty okay calibrated colors. They were decently bright, even though the sun and the way the sky is caught aren't my favorites. I would say that the clarity and colors were pretty much spot on. It feels somewhere in between the Xiaomi Mi A1 and the Mi A2. Several more shots here. Portrait is decent, not close to the level of a Huawei P20 Lite or Mate 20 Lite, but still there. The selfies were too white and the face looks like a doll's face, so get rid of the beautification. Even at level 2 out of 5, it's too much beautification and there are no wrinkles and no pores to be seen, so maybe avoid it unless you're a fashionista. A surprising aspect, well, the details were pretty surprising for these raw resolutions, and the textures and once again the colors, nice shades and contrasts by the way, and the close-ups are actually pretty good. Okay, several more shots here. In several areas the shots felt a bit blue, at least too blue for my own preference, but in general the clarity was spot on. We also have portrait selfies and portrait shots with the back camera, of course. Once again, not on the level of a Huawei P20 Lite or Mate 20 Lite, but also not bad overall. That's the experience, not bad. The selfies are too white for me and too doll face, but surprising aspects are the colors, the zoom, both on your PC and on the actual device, and I would say that's about it. And let's face it, for 5 megapixel shooter, these selfies are decent. So these are daytime shots. Let's go to the nighttime shots. So several things to remember here. The daytime photos are below the Motorola One, slightly below the LG Q7, but not very far. We're about on par with the Motorola Moto G6 Play, the HTC U11 Live, and on the level of the Galaxy A6 2018 or slightly above. What's clear is that we're certainly defeating and beating the Huawei Y series phones, and the colors look great. Now, I promised you low light shots, so let's sample them a bit. So in low light conditions, things aren't great. There is a bit of darkness, a bit of graininess, a bit of weird colors like pink and orange, which don't belong here. The halos are rather big. The zoom becomes poor. It cannot handle the light sources. So you can see it here. We cannot understand what's written here, while many phones can, so there's something for you to meditate on. So not impressive, and the flash makes everything too white. In the distance, the details are rather poor. Pink, orange, forgettable, basically something like a second tier Nokia, maybe a Nokia 5, something like that, or even below it. That's the nighttime experience. Now if you want to talk about videos, I'm going to go here, MX Player, keeps things simple for you. You got all the camera videos here, and let's take them one by one. So we're filming in full HD, MP4, 30 frames per second and 20 mega per second, and the result goes like this. By the way, excellent microphone. I could hear my own music in my headphones. I could hear my breathing and people walking around. I could hear the snow crunching beneath my feet. Poor details, that's the first impression. Decent colors, and a bit of a poor zoom at the first impression. A pretty solid focus throughout. Nice dynamic range with the sun behind the scenery. Okay exposure change. And fluid panning motions. The lack of refocusing is refreshing. The last few phones had some refocus problems. So fluid, okay colors, decent clarity. Okay, and the biggest surprise here was the electronic image stabilization. Here we go. I'm walking at a pretty, I would say, reasonably fast pace, and stabilization is actually not that bad. The image doesn't vibrate excessively. Things are pretty clear and well focused. Okay, so there's that. Another video here. Here we do have some dynamic range problems, but they are corrected as we progress. The exposure change aligns favorably. The clarity remains okay. It's actually not a bad capture for $150. Actually not bad. I've seen worse. It feels like it's superior to a Samsung Galaxy J phone. Even superior to the Xiaomi Mi A2 a bit, but details remain poor. I tried out the selfie video, 45 megapixel camera, it's decent, maybe too white background, too white face, but you can understand the facial expressions. The exposure is a bit flickery, but you can do a bit of vlogging if you really have to. Okay, so we're done with that aspect. Time to see how the low light scenery is handled on video. So video number one goes like this. The halos are too big, things aren't clear, there are too many reflections, too much grain, too much darkness. Also shaky and a bit pink. So you can clearly not use this as a low light filming phone. It trembles a lot, it shakes a lot when you're walking. Not the best surely, but we also didn't expect it for this price. So that's about it. Remember this, you can compare it to the HTC U11 Live and the Motorola Moto G6 Play, and that's about it. Now let's go to other aspects. So I guess it's time to have a look at the web browser. The web browser of choice here is Chrome, and let's access gsmdome.com. So here we go. It seems fast enough, I would say, with the website loading, and the benchmarks are rather modest when it comes to the web browser. Now, as far as the input is concerned, we got a stock keyboard, as you can see here, also with some swipe input supported. On the connectivity front, we have good news. This is a dual SIM phone that is able to separate the 2 nano SIM card slots from the microSD card slots. So 3 slots, 2 nano SIMs and 1 microSD. You got 4G LTE in the mix here, but you cannot use 4G on both SIMs at the same time, so one at a time. There's 4G LTE, of course, Wi-Fi A, BGN, Bluetooth 4.2, Wi-Fi display, Wi-Fi direct, 2 microphones, one at the bottom and one at the top, plus audio jack, and the device should also have an infrared emitter, which is placed right here, and it lets you control set-top boxes, TV sets, and all that jazz. Now we also have a GPS, AGPS, GLONASS, Beidou, and at the bottom there is a micro USB 2.0 port. You're going to use the Mi remote application to control your TV set, set-top box, air conditioner, even your rice cooker, camera, or projector via infrared. Now the calls were pretty clear, but not the loudest in the world, so keep that in mind. And when it came to the speed test, we have the following results. So here we go, looking up the speed tests. These are all the results we achieved. So with a top level of 121 megapixel download on 4G, I would say we're doing fine. And a top level of upload of 45.2 megapixel in upload, once again fine. On Wi-Fi, 103 megapixel downloads, 24.7 megapixel uploads, once again fine. but I maybe expected more than the 4G for some reason. On the software front, it's Android 8.1 Oreo in a stock version. The leftmost home screen is all about the news, the weather, the trending, the suggestions, so it's Google doing its best. Now if you keep press the screen, you'll trigger the wallpapers, widgets, and all those familiar things. Nothing has changed, it's all stock and rather fluid. For multitasking, there's the carousel, and you can also do the split screen thingy. And that's about it. Swipe down, you'll trigger notifications and quick settings. Speaking of settings, you get all stock stuff here. You can also mess about with the fingerprint scanner, which is placed here at the back side. You can swipe on it to activate the notifications area, and the same fingerprint scanner is pretty snappy when unlocking the device. Very fast and also very accurate. If you're wondering about bloatware, rest assured there is none. I counted 25 apps, everything is okay, no bloatware, just the necessary stuff. We got Duo, we got Files, we actually have 2 file managers, we got the Mi Remote, Mi Drop, the Play Suite, YouTube, Settings, Chrome, Drive, and that's about it. I guess it's time to talk about the verdict for this handset right now. So on the pro side, the pros are the following. Excellent battery life, a pretty okay display, a pretty okay performance. The electronic stabilization was fine when filming, not bad colors and not bad zoom when taking photos. The clean OS is always a plus, and the fast fingerprint scanner and pretty fast 4G are also pluses. On the cons side, not the prettiest phone in the world, pretty useless notch if you ask me. The screen is a bit too white in some points. The base of the speaker is lacking, poor low light capture even by these standards, long charging, beauty selfies are unimpressive, and we only have micro USB, no stereo speakers, and no waterproofing. But this is a $150 phone and it has to sacrifice some things. It's a good buy if you're aiming for a rival for HTC U11 Live and the Motorola Moto G6 Play. It's a proper rival for them. And if you add a few dozens of extra dollars, you could buy the Mi A2, which can even be better for gaming. This one, not that good for gaming. It's, I would say, good enough for some Instagram shots. Excellent battery life for some movie watching, but you may be in need of a larger diagonal for proper movie watching and without the distraction of the empty areas around the notch. So all in all, feels like a low mid-range phone, but with an adequate price for the experience you're getting. This is from gsno.com. Hope you like the review. We'll be back with more. Bye bye.